thought I did, actually. Okay, one moment. Apologies for that. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for Urban Panel 1. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances to the zoning requirements and consent to sever land. Our hearings are largely now in person here in Ben Franklin Place at 101 Centrepoint Drive, but we also enable remote participation by video conferencing for registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube, and the video will be archived and is available for future viewing by the public. My name is Simon Coakley. I'll be chairing today's hearings, and you can address me by my name or as chair. With me are my fellow panel members. To my right, John Blatherwick, Bill Hunter, and then to my left, Jay Baltz and Arto Keklikian. And I'd like to thank our colleagues from the other panels for joining us this afternoon to round us out. The proceedings for the hearings will be as followed. Listed on the agenda and appearing on screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. And for the sake of efficiency, we are going to reorganize the agenda just a little bit. Panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support of or in opposition to each of the applications. And today we will hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing. They also had to confirm in writing that they did so, and I believe we've had confirmations from all applicants that we do. So we don't need to talk about oaths. We may ask for a brief a brief presentation of each application. We'd follow that by questions for the applicant and questions for the city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak, and we may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant, who has the burden of proof, will have an opportunity to make final comments in reply. Et s'il y a quelqu'un qui veut se présenter en français, n'hésitez pas de le faire, s'il vous plaît. I'd ask that you address your comments to me as the chair, and please start with your name, spelling it if you wouldn't mind, and also your municipal address for the record. All presentations are limited to 5 minutes, although I do have some discretion to allow for a little bit of flexibility there. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it won't be delivered today. In either case, though, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decision and reasons for it to all the parties, to the participants and anyone else who has requested a copy. And unless anyone has any burning questions about procedure, we will get into a couple of preliminary matters. I believe we do not have any declarations of conflict of interest that I'm aware of. No, but we do have minutes of the April 4th and the April 16 meetings to confirm. So unless I hear any objections to those, we will deem those confirmed. Okay. What we have taken the practice of doing in the last is to deal with any adjournment matters first, then to deal with items that we believe are pretty straightforward, and leave the more complicated matters for the end. We do have a couple of issues where we believe that an adjournment may be needed. So the first one is number 4 on the agenda, 267 Sandan Avenue. So I believe Mr. El-Sarji, are you in the room as the agent? If you'd like to just come forward. So I understand that you have been made yes, you'll have to push the microphone button to turn it on. I understand you have been made aware that there is a request for the application, but I'm also been advised that you aren't exactly thrilled by that. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. I think from our perspective here on the committee, because revised plans have been submitted I believe this morning or late yesterday afternoon. Was it this morning?
It was this morning, and it just showed a redaction of the steps. It wasn't actually revised plans.
So because of that, though, we need final plans in order to be able to proceed with a matter. So it's our view on that basis alone that because there clearly is something that needs to be done to the plans, that we are going to adjourn this matter. We can suggest 2 weeks, which is actually 3 weeks, because in 2 weeks' time we don't have a meeting. The first meeting would be the 1st of June, or the following one would be the 15th of June.
Just to confirm, that's June 5th.
5th, sorry. So 5th or the 19th would be the second one.
That's right.
So you know, we can give you the choice of either of those dates if you want to pick one today. You go for the 5th of June?
We'll go for the 5th of June.
Okay, thank you very much. So can I just have the panel's agreement that we'll adjourn this to the 5th of June? Oh, did you have it? Sorry, you had a question, Mr. Blatto?
Well, this is, if we're going to adjourn this until the 5th of June, so you're aware of the comments from the planning department?
Yes, we are.
Okay, they have a large number of concerns regarding your application, and I think you now have the time to have discussions with them to sort of perhaps resolve these before you're back before us again.
Yes, I will.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chair.
Any other questions or comments? No? So anybody so the panel's in agreement that adjourn to the 5th of June?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and we'll see you again on the
Thank
5th
you.
of June. The second one where we have an adjournment request is number 7, 113 Northwestern Avenue. So if I could just trouble you to introduce yourselves.
My name is Bria Aird, BriaAird, and my address is 396 Cooper Street. I'm senior planner at Photon.
And I'm Michael Pranger, Pranger, architect at Linebox Studio on 116 Lisgar.
Okay, now I gather you are also aware that there was a request for an adjournment, and that equally you're not entirely thrilled with the idea.
That's right.
So it's my understanding that the adjournment has been requested by the community association, is that correct? In order to engage in some consultations with you? Is there anybody from the community association present today to speak to that? Right.
Mr. Chair, she's online.
Okay. Can we bring her on screen?
Yeah, Miss Pearl is online now. If you can turn on your camera and your microphone.
Thank you. Your microphone. Okay, there you go. Your microphone.
Here I am.
So, Ms. Pearl, you're requesting the adjournment. Would you mind just giving us a very brief explanation of why?
Well, because there were so many inadvertent errors made in the application itself, and because I'm really questioning what the original building permit saw. I noticed that there were a number of things, like the TIR is dated April 15th, 2024. So I wonder what kind of a TIR the original building permits received. I know that the garage has been roughed in for a very long time now. It was roughed in long before they put in their application for a double garage. And on my submission, I note that we have no problems with the request for the lack of screening, because it's facing the NCC property anyway. But all along, trees on the site and adjacent to it have not been protected, and a design with nature landscape plan would save some of those trees, which is why I'm saying that I don't know what kind of a TIR the original building permit actually received. Too much hardscaping exacerbates the impact of building a much larger dwelling on the property.
Ms. Pearl, all we're discussing at the moment is whether or not to adjourn. So it's not sort of the you know, whether or not the application is well-founded or not. It's whether or not we should adjourn.
Okay, well,
allow-
actually, the reason I asked for the adjournment was so that I could sit down with FOTEN and with Linebox and the applicant and discuss tweaks to the application, which would not harm the interior design. It would not harm the design of the house, because I mean, it's an interesting design. I've been intrigued to see what it's going to turn out like, but it will allow them to remove their request for minor variance for the double garage. It will allow them to remove their request for a double driveway. I think they would be able to have more opportunity to consult with forestry, because forestry has expressed concerns with the tree preservation. There's a lot of really cool things you can actually do that are not going to cause them grief, but I think will improve the application itself. And I know I was speaking with FOTEN yesterday, and I made the same offer. And I think we could sit down and come to a conclusion that will be very, very good. Now, in this case, they would be able to drop two minor variance applications for two minor variances, and they would be able to still have their approval for the other one that is not a problem. So we have concerns about green space in Champlain Park. We have had flooding in the past. We have had overland flooding. We've had storm drains looking like artesian wells. So we don't want to lose any more green space than we absolutely have to. They can still have a pool deck. They can swing the pool a little bit, so it takes a different location. There's a lot that can
Again,
be done quickly.
we're not into addressing the design.
Yes, sorry.
Take your point. And I will give you an opportunity to speak to this. So planning services, Penelope Horn, do you have anything to contribute on the?
So in terms of the adjournment request, planning staff, we really, if the committee we'll leave that up to the committee.
Thank you very much. Would you like to?
Yes, thank you. So as Heather mentioned, I did have a chance to speak with her yesterday, which I appreciate. It's my understanding from that conversation that other than the variances for the driveway and garage, which the community association is in opposition to and has provided evidence on, the remainder of the concerns related primarily to the design of the rear yard and tree conservation and planting in the rear yard. That is as of right, and it's not related to the variances that we seek today. So we request that the committee not grant the adjournment.
I think it's fair to say that our inclination coming in, at least, is to adjourn. We prefer to ensure that there's been an opportunity for parties to discuss the issues and resolve them where possible. But I'm in a sense in the hands of my colleagues here. Do any of the members of the panel wish to comment on this?
Well, is there a problem if it's adjourned for 2 or 4 weeks?
I guess the challenge is I understand that forestry has requested that the committee's decision be tied to the variances and not the plans, because they too would like to discuss an issue related to tree retention in the rear yard. So the majority of the issues that Ms. Pearl has raised could be addressed at a later date, regardless of the committee's decision on the variances before you today.
Because they're not related to what we are requesting a variance for.
So if we proceed today, then you are willing to take the risk that it may not be approved, that it may not be granted,
We are always prepared for that eventuality.
rather than a 2-week adjournment, say.
Yeah.
It would be the same request 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Perhaps forestry could comment on the adjournment request. There.
Ms. Young?
Hi there. Thank you for the question. We weren't necessarily requesting an adjournment in our comments, but to Ms. Pearl's point, I don't personally see the risk in adjourning for a short time to have these conversations and try to come up with an agreement that would work for people. I do recognize that our concerns are not related to the minor variance, so that decision stays with the committee really, but a small delay, I don't think is a big deal on this.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
I guess also for Nancy Young, who disappeared already, but I think we'll come back. There you are. So if this were to proceed today, I mean, we've been told in the past that this is the one opportunity for some conditions to be put on infill developments that building permit stage doesn't allow. Would it be possible to, with the conditions that are before us today, allow you to satisfy your concerns later? Or would it be better for there to be a delay and have them satisfied before variances are potentially granted with conditions?
Thank you for the question. That is a good one. This is a really unique situation where the building permit has actually already been issued and it was not circulated to forestry. So we are in a situation where we're in between all points of approval. So the last backstop with this is that we just will not issue tree permits for trees in the rear yard until that is sorted out. So it would certainly be ideal to wrap this all up in this one last application piece and to have plans that we all agree with. But again, it's not related to the minor variance. So I think your decision is sort of separate from the tree piece of this, if that helps to answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Not seeing any other questions from my colleague panelists. If you'd like to just on the adjournment issue only, if you could, because that's what we're trying to decide right this minute.
Sorry.
I mean,
I think the 2-week adjournment, I don't think it would be sufficient to resolve all of these issues in the rear yard. As Nancy Young has said, there is one more step of the city's process whereby they have oversight over what happens, and there would be the opportunity following the committee's decision to address these regardless of how the committee decides on the variances. I'm I guess, uncomfortable with advising or advising my clients to accept an adjournment for issues that are not related to the decision before you.
I should actually have just asked if anybody else wanted to comment on the adjournment.
I pardon.
I mean, I suspect, fingers crossed, suspect not, but, oh, there's somebody, yes.
Sorry.
No, quite all right. It's my fault. I should have,
That's okay.
If you could.
You're filling in today.
If you could just identify yourself.
Yeah, it's Tim Gray, Timgray. And the only question I have about the adjournment is I wrote to the panel and there was an issue about the overhang and the cantilever section of the over the driveway and whether that needed a variance or not. And I'm not a planner, not an architect, but from what I read, a cantilevered portion can only be 1.8 meters. And because of the skew of the cantilevered portion relative to the home, at the one end, it's 3.6 meters. So as far as the adjournment is concerned, and the planning staff could answer that for me. If this is an issue that needs to be addressed, then there should be an adjournment.
Okay, fair enough. Can you answer that question?
Yes, for sure. So, section 140, the section you're speaking about, refers to a parking space. So in this situation, the garage would technically be the parking space, and the driveway would sort of be considered separately from that. So the overhang provision would not apply.
Because of course, everybody parks their cars in their garages. But no, I understand the point. So if there were not a garage, if it were a carport, where that would be the place where the car was to be parked. The assumption is if I am understanding correctly, the assumption behind the bylaw is if there's a garage, that's where the car is parked. The rest of it is just the way the car gets into the garage. Is that it?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's not a parking space.
Okay, I was just confused because in the site plan, you know, it clearly shows a car parked in the driveway. Okay, well, thank you.
I say. Okay, colleagues. Ms. Bowles?
I mean, I guess I would be okay with going forward and hearing it today because it does not sound like anything is going to get resolved in 2 weeks, and we were talking about a 2-week adjournment, but I'm flexible.
Any other views?
We proceed, Mr. Chair, that's fine. If we adjourn, that's fine by me as well.
Okay.
I think if it's adjourned till, when is it, June the 19th?
June 5th would be 3 weeks.
Yes, and the next one after that.
June 19th.
June 19th. When I asked the applicants about the harm that would do, I got an answer, thank you. But I didn't understand that that's going to do any significant harm. And if it gives Mr. Gray and Ms. Pearl an opportunity to talk to you folks, and you folks to talk to the planning, when you come back, may go through unopposed for all I can think of. Is that something you'd want to give some further thought to?
Are you able to speak to just the impact on in terms of construction?
Yeah, the home is under construction as is, and a 1-month delay of that area is definitely not preferred. And from our correspondence with Mrs. Pearl, it seems that her request in this meeting that we would have with her is to not do a 2-car garage, which is what we are applying for. So I don't know what an additional conversation, when one has already been had, would provide us losing a month of time.
Okay. Well, in that case, then let's proceed with it. We'll put you back on the agenda and we'll come back to you in a couple of minutes. Then. Thank you very much.
I have patience if you think it'll be a couple minutes.
No, no, we'll get to them in a couple of minutes. Okay, so the next item, with luck, this will only take, the worst thing you can say at a meeting is this will only take a couple of minutes. That's the kiss of death. Item number 5, 648 and 648A O'Connor Street. So that would be either Ms. Ahmed?
Yes.
Okay. So we're definitely not looking for the presentation because quite frankly, we have an issue here about a possible adjournment as well. I believe this was flagged to city staff who may have an answer that would help us. But quite frankly, in the material that we were provided, variances B and D, we think the calculations are wrong. And if they are, then this would have to be, unfortunately, would have to be adjourned and recirculated because the calculations are wrong. So, as I say, I think Committee of Adjustment staff did reach out to city planning. So I'm not sure if you have anything that you can shed any light on this for us or help us.
Thank you for the question. I just got a hold of somebody at the city who can use Adobe to calculate the rear yard area correctly. All I have is a calculator for this irregular shaped rear yard area. So I want to make sure that it's calculated properly. Are we able to step this down after the adjournment section? And
yes, we could. If you think you'll have an answer to if you think there's a possibility of an answer to a definitive answer, I think we can ask you, just if you don't mind waiting a little bit longer. We'll come
That'd be appreciated. Yeah.
Okay.
Did I do that right? So I actually was for B for 648 rear area. Can I turn this off?
Yes.
Okay.
But then we can't hear you. Sorry, I mean,
So for B, I just did the calculation quickly with my grade 11 math, and I was able to get a rear area of 28, requested a variance of 28.0381 square meters, which is 22.41%. So that would be a correction on 648. And I haven't got around to do that for the 648A yet, but I can do the math.
but if in that case, then the posting would have been wrong, correct? I'm looking to to Committee of Adjustment staff on this one, that in terms of if the information that was publicly posted is incorrect, even if it was an inadvertent mistake, obviously.
That's correct. If we're increasing the extent of the variance, so the yard is smaller than what was on the notice, it would need to be recirculated.
It's actually greater.
Okay, so I think let's let city staff figure that one out.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to you later again.
I appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wonder, Mr. Chair, is there anything to come back to? If we understand that one of the calculations was wrong and it's gonna have to be recirculated.
But if the variance, so what I understood Committee of Adjustment staff to be saying, if the variance is, if it's worse, for want of a better terminology, it needs to be recirculated. If it's better, that's not.
That's correct. So I'm not sure which it is.
And you are suggesting
I'm
that.
not sure which it is.
Yeah, so let's let city staff come and try and confirm it for us. Okay. All right. It's amazing how the easy agendas appear to be turn out to be complicated. Okay, item number 3, 155 and 157 Geoffrey Street. So the representative here is David Beckers, online, because I don't see anyone coming down. Do we have David Beckers online?
Yes, he's online. He's
Okay.
being added in now.
Right. So fingers tightly crossed. This appears to be a fairly straightforward and unopposed application. So, Mr. Beckers, I won't ask you to present it at this point. I will ask if city staff have any comments they want to make. You're satisfied with the application?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone on the panel have any questions or comments? Okay. Anybody in the room here have any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Anybody who is participating electronically, virtually, put your hand, put your electronic hand up and we can bring you in as required. So I'm not seeing any on my screen. We're not seeing any. Okay. In that case, are we ready to? Mr. Beckers, do you want to say anything at this point? Or?
No, so far it's going better than expected. So I'll let you continue.
Yes. So in that case, are we ready to decide on this one now? Can I then assume those in favor, if you could so indicate? Okay. So you've got a unanimous agreement there, Mr. Beckers. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item we have here is number 6, 275 MacLaren Street, and that's Alan Teramura. Sorry, is this a missed? If you could put the.
Alan's out of town, but Rhonda Taylor from 2 Row Architects should be online.
Okay.
And I am from WMTA Architects.
So.
And Rhonda Taylor from 2 Row Architects, we're the acting agents.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I don't think we need a full presentation on this. Does city staff have any concerns, any issues you wish to raise for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have no concerns regarding this proposal, and it's been circulated and through Heritage and other staff and has gone through the correct process.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of the panel members have any questions or comments? No. Mhm.
So this is just a question for either really staff or. So there was a lot of discussion about retaining trees and which ones could and could not be retained. And there's a planting plan for several trees, 3 maybe in the back along the lot line. So my only question is, given that a tree that's visible from the street had to be removed, why is it not possible to add a tree in the lawn on the front? Is it because they're wires or what is, normally I would have expected to see forestry ask for a tree in the front yard space.
Rhonda, I don't know if there was a specific reason, but we.
So we weren't asked to include a tree on the front space. Originally, there was an additional tree that was installed there, but it died. So we are just replacing the trees, the 3 distinctive trees that are coming out at a 1-to-1 ratio with 3 new trees. 2 are service berries, and 1 is a balsam fir, which have cultural value to our clients. And they're also of the same sort of scale.
Would it be possible to get is Nancy Young still on? So you didn't request the tree in the front. Is there a reason for that?
Thank you for the question. Just looking at the street view right now, it looks like there are 2 trees already in the front and that there wouldn't be space to plant a new one. That being said, if the one has died, I can't tell from what I'm looking at right now. If it's dead, then it would be preferable to replace it in that location. So that's something we can certainly look into with the applicant.
I mean, I'll leave that to you. It won't have anything to do with what we do today, but I was just curious because usually when a visible tree gets removed, forestry is right on top of it asking for another. Thanks.
It's a good catch. Thank you.
Any other questions from any of the panel members? Any questions or comments from any members in the audience here? Seeing none, any questions or comments from anybody online? No? In that case, if you want to say any sort of, closing words.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe we probably are in a position to proceed with, okay. So all those in favor of the application? Okay, so again, unanimous consent. Thank you very much. So we'll now sort of go back to the regular agenda in the order in which it was originally established. And we'll go to item number 1, which is 282 Loretta Avenue, and that's Anthony Bruni. Online. We have. Is Mr. Bruni online that we?
Yes, he is. He's just being promoted now.
Okay, fair enough. You are still on mute, Mr. Brown. There we go.
Hi there. Anthony Bruni, Kalitza Bruni Architecture. My address is 76 Chamberlain Avenue.
Hey, can you give us a brief overview of the project here?
Sure. I had an extensive one, but I can try and go through really quickly.
Well, you only have 5 minutes.
I wasn't sure how many questions.
No, we didn't identify any specific questions, but it is it seems like a fairly extensive project. So if you can just kind of the highlights.
Okay. the presentation, once the presentation comes up, I can speak to it. Okay, so generally, the proposal is for 3 new single-family dwellings. I think it's important to note that none of the we meet all the setback requirements for a single-family home. Some instances we exceed the setback requirements. That generally the variances we're requesting are related to the slope of the site, and you can see in this image that if you're standing on the sidewalk, the site slopes up 1.5 stories to 2 stories. So it's up there. If anyone knows this part of Loretta, it's on a steep slope, and that's was the primary challenge with developing this property and coming up with an appropriate development. So we'll go to the next page. So here below you can see the photos of the site. The 1 second from the left is our site, and you can see it's generally the approach has been when the street was first developed, you know, probably I think the 20s or 30s, that generally what was done was they excavated out, put retaining walls, and you parked in the front yard, and then you climbed a exterior stair, 1.5 to 2 stories to get to your front door. And that's how the majority of these houses still are, and some of them have been modified since. Next. Just in terms of a little more context, so the red is is where we are located. We are on we basically, this side of Loretta transitions from the low-rise, you know, semis and singles of the Civic Hospital neighborhood to, and you can see in the pink all the high-rise and mid-rise apartment buildings. So the neighborhood really changes on this street, and so it's it really is in a unique location. In addition to the sloping site is the context of the high rises and parking lots across the street. However, we are close to schools. You can see the blue to the northwest, and then the green, which are the commercial buildings on Preston Street, and the yellow, the light rail, and the Dow's Lake railway station, and Dow's Lake. So it's in many ways it's a difficult site, but a very great site for density. Almost for this entire block from Hickory to Beach, generally there's other than the ends, as you move towards the middle of the block, the slope really increases and becomes quite high. And again, you can see that on our site in the bottom right-hand picture, and then to the left, that's what's across the street. Directly across the street from our site is that apartment building, and the lots also on this street happen to be quite deep. So rather than the typical 33-meter or 100-foot deep lots, which are through most of this neighborhood, these ones happen to be 140 feet deep, so almost 40% larger. So they are quite deep. And very sloped. So the houses are all sort of on this street are set back much further from the front property line. The setback in the zoning is 3 meters. However, most of the houses on this street are probably more like 5 to 6 meters back, at least. And again, just Loretta, this side of Loretta is at the transition between that sort of low-rise neighborhood and the higher density high-rise and mid-rise buildings. Next slide. So the project is divided into 3 properties to accommodate 3 single-family dwellings. Each lot A, lot B, lot C, are all generally the same size, slightly different due to things not being perfectly at 90-degree angles. And what really influenced the organization and this approach to this site was the sloping property and the sloping land, and which made it difficult for other types of building types. We did look at a variety of ways to park cars and deal with all these things. Ultimately, this is through discussions with the city and developing different ideas, this seemed to be the most appropriate and most suited for this site and this context. So the organizing influence is really influenced by the slope. Also, a way to access the homes without having to do the long climb up an exterior stair to the front door. You can imagine if you're a family, bringing your kids home in the wintertime and going up with strollers as such. So the idea was to partly also address that challenge with this part of Loretta and with the sort of issues with having to have a house up on the slope. Also the desire to develop homes that are geared to families instead of doing apartments. Part of this is also the city would have preferred us to eliminate front yard parking and have garages instead. The section to the right shows the slope of the site. So the heavy dotted line along here, can you see my cursor? That's the slope of the site. So from the sidewalk up to here, it's a little over 1.5 stories. And as you can see, this dotted line here in the background, that's the size of the existing home on the lot. So you can see, although we are requesting a height variance, we are at the same height, more or less, as the existing houses. So we are not going higher than what's already there. The height variance is a result of when you calculate your average grade, you calculate it back here at the highest point, and then down at the front property line near the lowest point, which ends up bringing the average grade down to where if this was a typical 2-story home, the average grade would be at the footing of the house, which would automatically put it a story over the height limit. So basically almost every house on Loretta right now, if you calculate the height of that house according to the current way you calculate in the zoning bylaw, none of the houses would meet the height requirement of the zoning bylaw. It's just the reality of the way the calculations are made now. So, and obviously the zoning bylaw, this being an R2 zone, and it's the same as the rest of most of the Civic Hospital area, the zoning would not have contemplated a drop on the site like this. So that's, again, one of the variances related specifically to the height. Next slide. Some of the functional aspects I mentioned before, we have this sort of landscape wall across the front, which creates this podium. The garages are recessed back. This was preferred to having just landscape wall and front yard parking. The garage also serves to benefit access into the house and then being able to get up to the main living level in an interior stair rather than having to always use the exterior stair, which again can become, an issue at certain times of the year. We felt that this is more conducive to a family having that way to access the home. In the same
Mr. Bruni, you are a little bit over the 5 minutes, so if I could ask you to just sort of kind of wrap up, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. And you can see here that podium does create these roof terraces over the garages that then line up with the existing neighboring porches. Next slide. The variances, so it's the height, it's the lot width, lot area. There was no concerns from the city on the lot width or lot area or any of the variances. The height's related to the slope. The garage and the driveway are related again to the streetscape character analysis. I'd like to have a minute to touch on that if you would allow, and to touch on the other variances.
I suspect you'll get some questions about the garage and streetscape character. So okay, we can address that at that because I have a thing about that. Okay, so I think if I could, I'm just going to ask you to hold it there, and because I think we will have some questions for certain. I just want to confirm. So from the city's perspective, you are supportive of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have no concerns with the application.
Thank you very much. However, you are requesting 10 conditions. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that was
It's
10.
it's okay. And Mr. Bruni, you are aware of those conditions and you are you are willing to have them, you know, if we agree, you're willing to have them attached to the committee's decision?
Yeah, those are all pretty standard for what we're used to seeing, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bruni? By all means.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Bruni, the height variance that's requested, I understand how it's calculated, but what if you were just to measure the rear wall from the grade at the rear? What's the height from the roof to the ground there?
Yeah, if we could go back to that slide, I could show you.
I may have missed it, but yeah.
I didn't have it noted, but the rear yard it would be a 2-story home that would comply to the height limit. So if we go back to this, yeah, here we go. So if the far right, you can see the floor level of that part of the house, right, is about I want to say 3 feet maybe above the above grade, which is very typical of the floor level above grade. You're typically 3 to 4 feet, and then you have 2 stories above. I don't have that dimension. I don't know if it's showing here. No, but that, if you can see there, that is your standard 2-story home. And like I said, so the height of this, you know, sort of lines up with the height of the other buildings.
So it would meet the if everything were flat, it would meet the 8.5 meter maximum.
Yes. Yeah, so you can imagine if that line just continued straight across, right? Like you could see by the time you get to the sidewalk, the height difference.
Yes.
Right. If this grade was there, that's really what create. And if you were to take that straight across, you could see that this is just really like a standard 2-story home, right? In terms of its height, if that was flat. It's the challenge of this slope, and then creating something that works with the slope instead of something that works against it. And I think this does that.
Yeah, that's good. That answers it. We did receive a letter raising the issue of the height and the shadowing, but
can I actually show you a slide? I put a specific slide together in the presentation related to the opposition letter, if you want to see it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as well, if we've got it.
Yeah. So if you could just skip to go further down through the slides. I think it's keep going, and I think it's page 11. Next one, yeah. So the red outline is the property that wrote the opposition letter. That's 181 Hickory. You could see, so the height we are basically at the same height as the adjacent buildings here. There will be no shadow impact on that particular property, especially you can see the distance, and she's to the south. So there will never be a shadow impact on it. Even if we were adjacent, we wouldn't have a shadow impact on it. And their lot size is actually smaller and narrower than what we're requesting. So I think there was a comment about a concern about the lot width. And like I said, that particular property is actually narrower and smaller in area. And I think generally that's, you know, I think those are the two main concerns. And I think the notion of it, you know, maybe you just split it in two and put 2 houses on it. I mean, I think that in the end, what you end up with is much larger homes on the property. These ones currently are at around 2,300 square feet. There are 3 bedrooms plus a home office. Perfect for an urban family, large backyard, access to schools and everything. Once we split this, I think you're looking probably more to get this to work at, you know, plus 3,000 square foot homes on it, which, you know, you're starting to get it over the $2 million range. More difficult type of house to and less accessible house to most families. So we felt this was more compact, more urban, and a better solution, especially given the site and the context.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else question? Mr. Hunter?
So then as to the height, the lady at 181 Hickory Street said, "I do not agree with allowing an increase in height from 8.5 meters. This would cause more shadowing on my backyard, which is already light challenged." Is she wrong?
She's completely wrong, yeah. There's no way we're a few hundred meters to the north of her. The sun shadows are going to be on the east, west, and north side of our house. It'll never, even if we were actually right next door, we still wouldn't have a shadow impact on her property.
Okay, thank you. I do have a thing about streetscape character analysis. It drives me around the bend. I've said this before. Perhaps you would like to just address that issue. How out of whack are you with the streetscape analysis on the front-facing garages? What is your rationale for them?
I think the streetscape character analysis in this case is interesting because the streetscape character analysis, and I think it's described well by Ms. Linker, that the dominant character determined by the streetscape character analysis allows nothing, right? So it basically allows no driveways, no garages, no front yard parking. And you look at the context of what the site is, it's all retaining walls and hard landscaping in the front. That's generally what the whole site is. And some of them that don't have that actually excavated right out to the building to create a 3-story building, which doesn't comply with the zoning as well, and has a fully paved front yard. The reason that is that, and it's demonstrated on one of the pages in my in the planning rationale and in my presentation, is that it's difficult to prove that the streetscape as it is now was like this before the zoning bylaw has been enacted, right? So basically what the streetscape character analysis says is that we ignore everything that's there, and the streetscape analysis says that it's all, basically no parking or anything in the front, which isn't the reality of it. It's just the way this street is, and it's so unique that, and it's also impossible to prove that these are all legally established parking spaces. The other thing through the discussions is, is a question as to, well, every one of these houses also has a depressed curb to their driveway, right? And so somehow there's been some acceptance generally that this is just the way the street is. And so what we're asking for is to be able to provide driveways. We did them in a way that we kept them to the most narrow you can possibly have at 2.6 meters. We've added green space in between. So we've actually increased the amount of green space on this property in the front yard, because currently that front yard area was almost all paved. And what we did was, in order to, rather than just create like suburban like garages, which would be out of character, what we did was we created that landscape wall to reflect also what is happening on that street. Also addresses the slope, and then these garages are recessed within that to create a nice architectural element and a nice podium that the house sits on. So we do feel that although we are varying the streetscape character analysis, that we actually, the streetscape character analysis result does not actually match what's there. And what we're providing is actually a solution that does work with the streetscape character, what the actual character currently is today. I just can't provide sufficient evidence, and I don't think anyone ever could, that this is how it's always been, which I think there's enough evidence to suggest that that's the way it's always been. It's just the earliest images we have, which I showed in my planning rationale, and I could show it here again. You can see that in 1956, there are some cars on at least 4 lots. You could see the cars if you can make out the cars in the front yard. The other properties you can't, but you can't. We don't know, maybe there was parking there, but the car just doesn't happen to be parked there when the aerial photo was taken. It's too grainy and black and white to determine whether there's driveways or not, what's green space, what's not. So it does show some evidence that this is generally how they may have been using the property. However, through discussions with the city, yeah, that's the thing. So the yellow squares here are where we can make out vehicles parked in the front yard. And the rest of them is just, it's too difficult to tell. Like I said, it's hard to distinguish where driveways start or stop, what's green space and what's not. And it's just too grainy and too black and white to be able to really distinguish beyond that. But this is a picture from not 1956. I think I got the numbers backwards, 1965. And then you can also just see along the bottom here that this is generally the streetscape, right? It's unique. There's not too many streets in Ottawa like this particular one. It's quite unique. It's nothing, again, that the streetscape character analysis would have really contemplated, or the zoning bylaw. It's front yards are primarily paved. Everyone has done some interesting landscape things. And then to the far right, you could see probably one of the most recent developments of a single family home on a smaller lot than ours. It's basically, they were permitted front yard parking. They have this detached garage element that you can't really get a car into, but it's a detached garage element at the front, and then a 3-story home at the back that, again, would probably not meet any of the zoning height requirements on the way we calculate things today. And that was probably about 10 years old now, I think, that property. Okay. So anyways, the streetscape character analysis is an interesting one, and it was it was a lot of back and forth with the city on this. And in the end, we came to an agreement on how to approach it that seemed to meet the character of the street. But it was agreed to that in the end, the city felt that, although I tried to get them to agree to a different type of character analysis if we could come to that, but in the end, they felt the best approach was just to ask for the minor variance on it, and that the street it was and also as we know, the streetscape character analysis, I think, is suggested to be removed in the new zoning bylaw. But in this case, this is a particular site where I just don't think it works. It doesn't work on this street.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to speak to this application? Not seeing anyone. Is there anybody online who wishes to make any comments one way or the other? Okay, not seeing that either. Okay, just before I give you a couple of minutes, and I really mean a couple of minutes to finish, Mr. Bruni, just to make sure I'm fully understanding, effectively you're asking for, I mean, there's the consent for the severance, but in the variances there are effectively it's the height, the reduced lot area, the reduced lot width, and of course lot area and lot width kind of, two sides of the same coin. And then there's the 3 variances that all relate to the garage. Is that, and that's for each one of the 3 units, it's the same sort of package, which gets us up to gets us up to R in variances. Okay. Again, panelists, colleagues, any last? So again, Mr. Bruni, short, if there's anything you think that you want to just sort of highlight before we decide what we want to do about this.
Yeah, I think generally, I think I've tried to cover off the major elements. I think I didn't touch on the lot width and lot area, but part of the reason we are approaching it this way, I think this size of lot in this neighborhood, if it was on a flat site, which has been done in other areas, it's basically a candidate for, with I think no minor variances, 2 front to back semis or 2 long semis. Which fit, especially with the deep lot. That type of development did not work here, again, because of the slope, which is why we had to look at something different. And the lot area, mind you, is very, very close to meeting the zoning bylaw. I think it's just 10 square meters we're shy. And the lot width, I think we demonstrated in a diagram that there's quite a few lots in this area that don't meet the zoning bylaw. And that also just noting that we are on a part of the neighborhood that is the transition to the change in neighborhood to a higher density form. So again, we felt a different typology here was appropriate. And I think generally this addresses a challenging site, and you can relate all the variances back to the slope of the property. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we wish to reserve this or do we wish to dispose of it? Postpone, okay. All right, I guess then as a package with our standard conditions and the specific conditions requested by the city, are we all in agreement then as a package deal on both the permissions and the variances? Was it? I mean, okay. All right, then, Mr. Bruni, you have your decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Okay, item number 2, 84th Avenue, Alain Bisson. Is Alain Bisson online? Okay.
Yes, he is.
Good afternoon.
Oh. Can you just give us a fairly high level, again, sort of quick presentation on what it is you're looking for?
I don't have a visual presentation, but I do have notes that I prepared to present in response to some of the comments received.
Fair enough.
So a high level for the project is to build a 2-story coach house in the rear yard of a duplex dwelling that has a 2-bedroom unit and a single car garage. The majority of the comments received was the impact on trees. And I just wanted to clarify that the structure that's proposed is a slab on grade type structure. So that minimizes the excavation that one may think for a 2-story structure. And that the variance is only related to the height. So the footprint of the coach house is in compliance with the bylaws as opposed to if it was a 1-story coach house, which would have the same impact on critical zones. Now, speaking of the trees, the property is subject to 4 distinctive trees, of which 1 is in the right of way and 3 are privately owned. And the tree report outlines 1 tree to be removed and 3 new plantings to compensate. In addition, as a result of the development, the hard landscaping of the rear yard is going to be reduced greatly. Right now, there's a lot of paved area in the rear yard that would be reduced to soft landscaping to help with rainwater management and so on. So, in addition, going back to the slab on grade construction method, there was concerns about the preservation of tree number 4, which is the tree adjacent to the lot on 82 4th. In the past, we've done protective measures with the arborist where excavation was done through a means of hydrovac, and the roots were carefully cut and beeswax applied to the roots to help increase the odds of that tree to survive the course of construction. So if the variance was granted today, that would be form part of our submission for a tree permit with the forestry department.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Coakley. So as noted in our comments, we do have some concerns with the proposed variance, and we believe that the height of the coach house is directly related to potential damage to the trees outside.
Just for clarify, in my own mind, the construction or the actual that because it's built on the the top of the tree rubbing against the roof kind of thing, that sort of or a bit of both.
A bit of both. I'm not a forester. We can have, I believe,
Is Ms. Young?
Mr. Alvarez.
Okay, Mr.
Barkham. He was the one to do the comments. So
okay,
if he's online.
Is he online? Yes, Mr. Alvarez Barkham. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, I was questioning just to clarify in my own mind, for my own understanding, the concern about the coach house and the proximity to the tree. Was it a question more around the tree would get damaged as part of the construction, or that once there's a roof there and the tree rubbing on, potentially rubbing on the roof, that would damage the tree? Is it like, where is the concern about the damage? Maybe is the best way of describing the question or asking the question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Member Coakley. Is this regarding tree number 4, the neighbor's tree?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it's mostly the impact to the root zone there. So just ensuring that there are adequate protective measures recommended in the TIR that will be implemented. And so I just didn't see that kind of consideration being given. So that's where my main concerns around tree number 4 are. Any clearance pruning that would be required would have to be implemented before construction for that, and would require probably significant pruning. I'm not exactly sure, but to allow for the height of that 2-story coach house.
So was Mr. Bisson's comments about beeswaxing the roots, does that go some distance to address your concerns, or would you need more information at that about?
It would go some distance, but again, the impacts to the canopy aren't really addressed, and I don't think the TIR provides enough information for me to anticipate what kind of impacts the tree would be subjected to.
Okay. Colleagues, does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Ms. Baltz.
Always me.
That's cool.
For Mr. Alvarez Barca. So the main or a main concern is that a distinctive tree, and this is now tree number 3, is going to be removed. And I think it was forestry's opinion that there is the possibility to design this in a way that retains that tree. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe so. The tree exists on the site currently with an existing garage. So presumably that existing footprint could be used and the tree could be built, the building could be built to accommodate the tree and to retain the tree.
So an element of the concern is that this tree should not be removed and that a different solution should be found. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hunter?
The neighbor has said that I'm just reading here. I noticed the mature tree to be removed for this project was not indicated correctly in the plans for the coach house at 84th Avenue. Please see attached photos and Bing Maps real imagery. I wasn't able to follow the Bing Maps, etc. So I don't know that, but staff could that be correct that the tree is on the application shown in the wrong place?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't have any further information on the location of the tree.
Wait, if I could ask Mr. Chair a follow-up question, should this matter be adjourned so that it could be determined whether or not the tree is in the proper and appropriate place?
Can I just provide some insight? I compared the image that was provided to the plan submitted, and I don't know if it's just a discrepancy of reading the plans because the arborist plan had trees outlined for the removal and the new plantings. So I don't know if the neighbor just misread the plan that the new planting, they thought that's where the existing tree was because the picture matches the survey that was done recently and it matches the tree report. So I don't know where the discrepancy is coming from.
Thank you, Mr. Coakley. So I agree with the applicant here. We reviewed the plans as submitted. And when I looked at the photo, I wasn't quite sure what that discrepancy was.
All right. Is the person who wrote that online or in the room? Were you? Okay. Are you, well, if you wouldn't mind then perhaps coming forward and just so that
Mr. Chair, we do have her online as well.
Okay.
We'll promote her now.
Okay, thank you. So let's just get her on the screen.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, it's Melody Green. I live at 84th Avenue, and it's a beautiful place to live. I was reviewing the application and saw that on the diagram that shows the existing vegetation that would be retained, it's indicated that the large tree that's more than 5 stories tall is situated on the adjacent lot. The lot that is on 5th Avenue, when in fact that tree is adjacent to the current garage. So if it's possible to look at the photos and Bing Maps attachment that I sent in to the committee, it might be easier to understand what I mean.
Okay, just 1 second then. Are we able to pull that up on the screen? Okay, so can you, are you able to see that now? What, I know this is a bit of a silly question. Can you see what we see? But are you able to see a picture of a double garage with trees covering on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if you would like to sort of identify, left, right, which of the trees we're talking about?
Right. On this picture with the garage, the large tree that is on the left-hand side of the picture is the tree that is on the property at 84th Avenue that is currently near the garage. And that is the tree that would need to be removed to make way for the coach house as planned. I just want it to be understood that that's part of the proposal.
Okay. And is the city was operating under this understanding as well, is that correct? I'm sort of looking to Ms. Young, but also to Mr. Alvarez Barkham as well, that you were aware of that when you made your comments. Is that correct? Fair?
Yes, I hadn't seen the a picture of the tree like this, but yes, those are
okay, thanks. So does that answer your concerns, Mr. Hunter, or you?
Well, that's the
Just
question.
trying- yeah, fair enough. Okay. Where were we? So we would, yes, it was panel. Okay, thank you. Sir, did you want to make any comment on that, or just to clarify, where we understand the trees to be?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of the property.
If you could just give your name.
Evan Potter, 82 4th Avenue.
Okay.
So I own the adjacent property as well, 82 4th Avenue. And the tree on the right side of the property is on my property, the adjacent property.
Okay.
And so I just want to clarify, the removal was tree number 3 and tree number 4 is on my adjacent property.
Okay. And then if I could clarify, tree number 4 was the one that the city was expressing concerns about the impact of the construction on that tree. Is that, am I correct in that understanding?
Yes, that is correct.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from panelists, from committee members? Mr. Hunter? Yeah.
What do you understand to be the impact on the tree that's on your property if this matter goes ahead, sir?
So I haven't had discussions with the arborist, but we'd have to do the mitigating. We'd have to follow direction from the city on mitigating effects for the roots on tree number 4, including the pruning for the height. Yeah.
Tree 4, from what you understand, if those effects were done and carried out, tree 4 would still survive.
Oh, yeah, tree 4 would survive, of course.
Okay,
we want tree 4 to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Colleagues, Mr. Bladwick?
To Mr. Bisson, what's the size of the proposed dwelling, Mr. Bisson?
1 second, I'll get you that information. It's 50 square meters, which is in compliance with the 40% rule of rear yard coverage or footprint of the main dwelling.
50 square meters, and that's the footprint?
Footprint, correct.
Okay, and what's the actual square footage of the house? Interior.
So it's 2 stories. Let me just do some quick math right now. So it's a 2-story structure. So you're looking at just over 1,000 square feet, but that includes the garage portion, which is a single car garage. So you would have to deduct that from the calculation, which is about 150 square feet. So you're looking at about 850 square feet of livable space.
Okay, and the other home on the site is how large in square footage?
I don't have, the footprint of the main dwelling is 103 square meters footprint, so it's roughly twice the size, and it's about a 2.5-story structure.
So you would argue then that the coach house you're proposing is subsidiary to the principal dwelling on the lot?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bisson.
Thank you, Mr. Blatherwick. Are there any then questions, comments from members in the room? So did you, I mean, other than the issue of the location of the tree, did you have anything you wish to
No, other than to answer if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, the lady who wrote the letter that raised the issue of the tree, did you have, you've gone off our screen, but did you have any other issues you wish to raise?
I found the page that was incorrect, in case you would like to confirm. It's the rationale document, page 5, has identified the location of the tree canopy incorrectly as being originating from a different lot. So that tree that is the largest tree in the area would be cut for this project.
Okay, unfortunately, the documentation we were provided doesn't have page numbers. Oh, it's on the screen now. Okay.
That's the one there. So the largest canopy that's indicated is sort of an understatement of the canopy of that large tree. And in this image, the tree is indicated as being on a different ownership parcel, not where it actually is adjacent to the garage. There is a tree.
So that's that big green circle that looks as if the center of that circle would be on, what would it be, 77, would that be presumably 5th Avenue, 3rd Avenue?
That's right.
So that was your concern, that circle appeared is further down than it should be. It should be a little bit further up the picture. Is that would be correct?
That's right. There is a tree in that location, but it's a very small, newer tree. That the grand tree in this area is the one adjacent to the garage. On this same page, just up a little bit in the text, it says the development will maintain the existing vegetation, acting as a privacy screen between properties, which I thought was not correct, because it's not maintaining the existing vegetation. So I only comment just to be clear about what you're deciding on. That's all.
No.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Does anybody else, either here in the room or online, have any issues, questions they wish to raise? Not seeing any. In that case, Mr. Bisson, do you want to make any kind of closing comments? Anything you want to say to address any of the issues that got raised?
Well, I think we touched all the points that I wanted to discuss. I think everybody has a good understanding of the project and the impact. The last comment I just want to make is, this specific law in relation to the neighborhood is affected by a lot of critical root zones and providing canopy coverage for the neighborhood. So I find the removal of the tree to meet the forest test of being minor considering if you review the site as a whole of canopy coverage versus the trees that it offers. And we're open to meeting the offset rule of 3 new plantings to compensate for the removal of this tree.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Colleagues, do we wish to reserve this one or yep, okay, so wish to reserve. So we will reserve this, Mr. Bisson, but you will get a formal decision from the committee within 10 days.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so now are we able to go back to item number 5 and address the issue of the measurements definitively? Okay, good. So, Ms. Linker, are you in a position to answer that, or is that?
Yes, I can answer that. I'm just typing out right now to Ms. Byers, what the requests should be. One of the, sites is actually zoning compliant when it comes to rear yard area. And so that is for 648A, and I'm just finding the tab that that's on, sorry. So that is variance D is not required. The rear yard area can actually be calculated at 26.52%, whereas 25% is required, so it's beyond the amount.
Okay.
648 O'Connor, which is variance B that we're recalculating. They in the notice wrote that 21.5% of the lot is rear yard area, which is 30.56 square meters. My calculation shows that 24.11% of the lot is rear yard area, which is 30.3 square meters. So it's less onerous in terms of the percentage. It's about 0.15 square meters more onerous in terms of the area. However, with rear yard area, typically we do see that rounded to the nearest whole number or rounded down to the nearest whole number. So typically we would have seen this applied as 30 square meters in regular instances. So staff wouldn't be requesting an adjournment with that respect, but it's up to the members if they believe that's necessary.
Okay. So, yeah, please, yes.
So I guess a key number that I don't have on my paper here is what is the actual lot area that you're making these calculations from?
Thank you for the question. I looked to the the minor variance application, and they noted that the lot area is 124.44 square meters.
For both lots or just?
That's what it was noted as, and because of the angle of the lot, there are different rear yard setbacks.
But the area calculations should be straightforward, correct? It's just a straight up 25% of those numbers.
It should be 25% of the lot area, which is 31.11 square meters. The one lot had a 33.5 square meters and the other lot had a 30.3 square meters. So just shy of the 31 square meter requirement.
So if I understand correctly, the city is satisfied that the posting was sufficiently accurate. Is that putting too many words in your mouth?
This staff would ask that variance D is removed from the decision in the posting, and that variance B be changed from 21.5 to 24.11%, and that 30.56 square meters be changed to 30.3 0.3 square meters. However, staff would be satisfied and have spoken with the zoning plans examiners who will be reviewing this at building permit, and they would be satisfied if it just said 30 square meters.
You said staff would want an adjournment. Why?
Sorry, staff would not request an adjournment
Oh,
for
I'm
this.
sorry, I misheard that. I thought staff would. Yes, okay,
Oh,
so
sorry.
the one portion though is larger than what was requested.
Just a portion, I guess it's a technicality. So the one portion said they originally asked for 21% of the lot area, whereas it's actually 24, so that's less onerous.
Yes, okay.
And then the square meters, they originally asked for 30.56, whereas it's actually 30.3 square meters. So that's about a 0.15 difference.
So recognizing that we could still decide to adjourn, let me just confirm as far as planning, our staff are concerned, that under these circumstances, we would not, based on past practice, need to repost. Is that correct?
That's correct. Of course, the panel has discretion, but it sounds like we're moving towards conformity with the percentage and with the square meter area.
Fair enough. Thank you. So on that base, yes,
Yeah.
please.
Not to slow things down, but in these cases, it would really help us, I think, to have the full information provided somewhere. So in the cases where it's not actually in the application itself, it would be really great to see that the calculation's been checked. And as you can see, it wasn't possible. I had to go to Geo Ottawa and pull numbers off of there to be able to see if the number made sense. And it was because they were going in opposite directions. The percentage was bigger and the number was smaller, right, in each case. And it seemed that the lots were the same size. It's not a criticism, but it just makes it, there would be a lot less of a delay if we could just see the math and make sure it was right somewhere.
And I will note, unfortunately, Geo Ottawa is not entirely accurate as a measuring tool. So I did get this measured by the plans examiner at building permit who will be reviewing this, and they were able to go on Adobe and actually get the accurate numbers for you.
Yeah, they were very similar. So it was still the same problem that two similar lots were 21.5 gave a bigger percentage than 23. Right. And so that couldn't be true if they were nearly the same, regardless of whether I had 123 that you get from Geo and you had 124, but they were both the same size lot. So a percentage of a bigger percentage of a lot, it can't give a smaller number than a smaller percentage of, yeah, right.
So we do appreciate the efforts to clarify. Thank you very much. Are we ready to proceed? And in this,
Mr. Chair, could I just interrupt?
yes. By all means.
Through you, can Ms. Linker confirm if variances A and C are correct or if they need amending also?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, variances A and C appear to be accurate.
Okay, we will collectively cross our fingers that they are. Okay, in that case, do we have, I believe this is reasonably straightforward. Do panel members have any questions of the applicant? No, Mr. Blatherwick? No. And staff, you are supportive of the application?
Yes, staff have no concerns regarding the minor variances requested.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public, again, either here in the room or online, who have questions or comments on this application? No? Okay. Do you wish to say something? By all means, but
obviously I don't have
you could
much.
just give us, confirm your name and for
Yes, my name is Asif Ahmed. I own 648 and 648A O'Connor Street. I just want to thank all members in the room for, getting through that.
No,
I
fair
do
enough.
appreciate it, especially to Miss Linker.
Well, thank you very much for that. Okay, do we wish to reserve this one or do we wish to proceed? Well, okay, all those in favor of the application?
All
right.
We have to say that did we amend it?
Oh, well, sorry. Yeah, I mean, for the, do you have the appropriate information you need for the record?
Yes, we do. So it'd be granted for the record
Yeah,
or as amended.
as amended. Thank you. Fair point. All right, you have your decision. Thanks a lot. Okay, item 7. So, welcome back. Maybe didn't get to you quite as quickly as I thought we might, but you know, such is life.
You were being optimistic.
Yeah, I know you get. Well, I must admit, I always thought that the worst thing you can say in a committee meeting, anyways, this is only going to take a few minutes. Okay, so well, you're aware of some of the concerns that have been raised, so why don't I suggest that that you give us not a full-fledged presentation, but a sort of a focused, if you want to focus your comments on the introduction on the issues that have been raised. But if you want to refer obviously to material you've already provided, that's great.
Yeah, certainly. So thank you, Chair. We do have a presentation, but we can go with it. And as you suggest, I won't address the variance to remove the privacy screen as there's no issues with that. So if we go to the third slide, yes, perfect. So as discussed, construction is ongoing on the site in accordance with an approved permit. And the benefit for me, certainly as a planner reviewing this and for the committee, is that it gives us the chance to really focus on the exact scope of the variances. So if we go to the next slide, this is the site plan with the variances that are being requested. And the only changes that are proposed to the site as compared to the approved site plan are the flare driveway, which is 3 meters at the property line and then flares out. The landscape plantings that are now proposed associated with that to screen the flare of the driveway and also to emphasize the main entrance of the house. And then, of course, the garage door itself. And I know that Michael wishes to have a few words on materiality and design at the end on that. So the variance complies with the intent of the official plan. We can skip 2 slides. Now, really the intent of the zoning bylaw and the provisions that restrict driveway width, including the streetscape character analysis, are intended to ensure that the relationship between the street and the primary entrance is the strongest relationship, that it's not overwhelmed by vehicular parking, and that designs respond to the urban character of the street. So this graphic, which was in our planning rationale, is intended to indicate not certainly the legal status of the driveways in the street, but to give an idea of the existing character of the street. There's been a number of semi-detached development over the last 10 years that has resulted in a range of wide driveways that you can view directly from the street that are not screened by landscaping. So the benefit of the variances before you today are to allow a design that does provide enhanced landscape screening, that also provides permeable pavers, whereas none were provided before, to address the functional benefits of softer landscaping for stormwater management. And it does not change the aspects of the approved design, which provide for the primary relationship of living space and the main entrance to the street. We can go to the next slide. So this slide again illustrates the character of many of the existing dwellings that do really have a very dominant auto-oriented character. We feel that the design proposed and before you today is actually an improvement relative to many of these, some of which are as of right. And we can go to the final slide. So with respect to this, oh, that's didn't erase a note there. This image is actually from the building permit package. It shows the existing sort of building permit approved design. And as you can see, The top story projects over the garage. There's a portion of the dwelling that projects significantly in front of the garage. And again, there's that central location of the main entrance. And then in terms of, and Michael will speak to this further, in terms of the changes that the variances will permit, it really is limited to that wall that's behind the figure in this illustration. That will now be garage door. Currently, it's a blank wall with garage volume behind it. And again, Michael can speak to the material choices that would be made to minimize the visual impact of that. So in conclusion, functionally and aesthetically, the variances meet the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. They are appropriate as they will allow for a design that actually provides enhanced front yard landscaping and screening, and minimizes the visual and functional impact of the driveway on the street, and are minor in nature.
And yeah, I would just love to add, if we could look at that front elevation again, that the owner of this future home has committed to a very nice, very sleek garage door that is, so you see this, it's split in half in the permit set. That side on the second, it's either a 2-car garage if we get approval, and that garage door will not look like a garage door. It'll have the cladding that the rest of the home has. It will have a concealed frame. It is a very nice garage door that doesn't look like a garage door. It looks like siding on the home. And that is something the owner has committed to. And so if that is not approved at this meeting, they will still be doing that garage door. It will be one garage door width, the standard of permitted that we already have permit for, and the siding beside it will be matching. So in terms of public realm and what is seen from the street, it's identical. It's double wide garage width of cladding that matches the rest of the home. So in terms of the public realm and what is experienced from the street, I see that there's no big ugly garage door on this house, whether it is a single wide or a double wide. It is nice cladding. That is a really nice product that is on the whole house. So just wanted to add that about the perceived garage door.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Oh, sorry. Yes, planning and apologies for that.
Thank you, Mr. Coakley. As mentioned in our comments, we do have some concerns relating especially to the double wide driveway.
So maybe if I could just clarify, just to make sure that I understand this, there is no issue in this particular part of town around front-facing garages. So they meet, the front-facing garage meets the street character analysis. It is simply the single versus double is the issue, is that?
So the issue is with the double wide driveway. So if a double wide driveway is permitted, then the double wide garage would naturally follow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Hunter.
Based on what the gentleman just told us, though, the way that if there is a double garage, that it's going to be, architect and the way it'll look. Is there still a problem? Does planning have a problem with that happening in that fashion?
So in accordance with the streetscape character analysis, double wide driveways would not be permitted in this area. And we do appreciate that mitigation measures are being considered. However, the concern with the double wide driveway remains.
I have a question for Forest Street. I'm looking at the comment sheet that we're provided with today. And on here it says, and I quote, Forestry requests the decision not be tied to plans and request a revised site plan on TIR, provide adequate protection of trees 3, 4, and 5. Given our discussions earlier on in the hearing, Does that request still stand?
Ms. Young?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would prefer that that still stands. I mean, you can word it as you like, obviously, but if the decision could focus really only on the variances, it's just so that we're not tied to keeping the same plans as they relate to the rear yard landscaping. That's what we were looking for.
So tie the variances to the front of the house, but not to the back of the house.
Yes, or specifically to the variance, since that is entirely at the front.
Can I interrupt, Mr. Chair? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
It's okay. It would be the committee standard practice to tie to plans as they relate to the requested variances. So the elements that are not in question with the variances could be changed accordingly.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
That's fine.
Mr. Livingston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to touch on the previous subject about the garage. I appreciate the double, the design elements that are intended to be placed there to sort of hide the fact that it is a garage door. And whether it's single or double, I just wanted to get clarification maybe from planning staff if that's possible. Is this in the inner urban transect, this site?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and that being the case, what is the city's, if you could just confirm the city's policy direction on parking and sort of vehicle dominance in an inner urban transect?
Thank you. So in terms of the inner urban area, there is a desire to reduce auto-oriented design. So through limiting the appearance of parking and reducing parking where appropriate.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, just to follow up, regardless of the streetscape character analysis, that's the existing condition. Is it fair to say that that policy direction is for an incentive towards the future? Looking forward, how do you characterize the community in terms of car dominance versus proximity to transit and attractiveness to other modes of mobility? Would it be fair to say that that's the intention of the policy of the city, is look forward rather than status quo?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions, comments? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. So that I'm confused a little bit about the building permit versus variances. So what did the building permit was taken out complying with the bylaws? So for a single garage and a single
That's correct.
driveway, and then during construction that was changed?
No, and
Not changed.
Well, the intent was changed.
The intent to now ask for a double garage and double driveway.
Right.
It's changed, yes.
Okay, so. And so you brought up the cladding of the garage doors. Is it just the second door that gets cladded in the matching material? What was the?
So this, in that image, if like the building approved permit plans show a single wide garage that will have the concealed garage with the cladding, and right beside it is that same width of cladding just on a wall in a typical fashion, not a garage door. But
No, but if this is approved, you have two garage doors. One's cladded.
one double wide garage door, which is
All
fully
clad.
clad in
Okay.
in the wood
So-
cladding, concealed frame. It hides.
I see. So there was no picture shown of that we saw. Because you only showed the two garages and they seem separate.
Right. That was the permit, that image was the permit, but in the minor variance application, it should show a double
Okay,
wide.
so it would be one smooth double width.
Exactly.
Well,
Just
and the
one-
driveway only flares out when it reaches
Second half.
there. Okay. Yeah. I guess the rest of this doesn't matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. So again, anybody, the remaining two people in the room want to speak to this, or anybody online who wishes to speak to this? Sorry, was it Ms. Hughes? We heard from earlier? No, Ms. Pearl. Heather Pearl, are you still online?
Yes, she is.
So, we heard you on the adjournment issue and, we resolved that. We're here now. So is there anything else you wish to add on the, the overall, as I understand it, you have no objections to the variance with regard to the opaque material because there's nobody who's going to be looking in one way or the other. But on the driveway, on the garage then?
Yes, that's correct. Now, I would like to go through Foten's 4 tests. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Well, this is we have to remember it's a large single-family home replacing a small single-family home, so density policies don't apply here. The official plan intent is to move from car-centric to active transportation-centric. From the official plan's perspective, a double garage and driveway do not meet this intent. So regardless of the cladding that they want to put on, I would say that a double wide garage with the same cladding and a single wide garage adjacent to the same cladding, it still amounts to a wall, a plain wall that does not accord well with the design in the surrounding area. So it's not engaging with the street as the official plan would like it to do. They could easily have a front porch here, but instead they have a paved area with a blank wall garage. And I know that until forestry intervened, the trees were designated for protection were being damaged. So I do not believe that the requested minor variances do not alter the permitted form. They do not provide an appropriate interface with the public realm, even with the sort of additional soft landscaping. So I do not believe the intent of the official plan is being met. Now, the regulations relating to does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The Section 140 of the streetscape character analysis is intended to ensure that the development demonstrates good urban design and does not increase the dominance of the automobile relative to the existing character of the area. So yes, front-facing garages are the dominant, but driveways still are not. And a single wide driveway would be perfectly acceptable in this case. So again, the front facade, with or without a double garage, would still be a blank wall. Are the variances minor in nature? Now, they say that the garages are not technically double wide. And many of these have strips in the middle to try to delineate between them. When they talk about they appear to function like double wide driveways. They do not. They do not function like double wide driveways. And while the principal entrance is at grade, it's a blank door next to a blank garage door or wall. So will it negatively impact the neighborhood? Well, yes, because we are a walkable 15-minute neighborhood in an area of the city that the city has decided will be transit oriented. The LRT runs just a little bit south of my house. I can walk to 3 grocery stores in 15 minutes. This has always been a walkable neighborhood, and we should not be moving in a direction away from that. I guess the other thing is, and it does come back to climate change and the policies in the official plan, all of these things are integrated. The zoning, the policies all have to be integrated with the climate change policies. And we are in an area where overland flooding has become a major concern. And by taking away area for green space, even if you put permeable pavers, that still doesn't compensate. So permeable pavers for the driveway to a single wide garage, and darn it all, you can put a really nice front porch there without too much trouble. I think this would be very easy to do. And I am concerned about the way this whole thing was done, because, I mean, even Foten saying that the old house was still on the property. Well, it wasn't. It was torn down in 2023. And saying that there were double wide garages when there weren't in the area. And still, single wide driveways are still the norm in all of Champlain Park. So I think I would say that the proposed variances negatively impact the streetscape, and they will negatively impact the neighborhood. So that is my concern. This is the inner urban transect near all kinds of services, LRT, etc.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pearl. I must admit, I am somewhat taken by your comment. And I would just, point out to the applicants, but, generally, making statements in your covering letter that are not true is not a particularly good way of engaging with us. So, where you say the subject property has a frontage, and this is on page 1 of your document that's dated March 2024, a single-story detached dwelling currently occupies the subject property, does sort of, not acknowledge that it I assume by March it had been torn down and construction had started.
Yes, I regret the error. That should have been corrected as when we conducted the site visit and submitted the application, construction had begun.
And I accept that sometimes things get drafted ahead of time, but as I say, starting off with an incorrect statement on a fairly material subject is not, as I say, not a particularly good way of engaging with us.
No, I sincerely apologize.
Okay, anybody else wish to make any comments? I mean, was Mr. Gray, I think you, was it not, we heard from you a little earlier. If you are still, you are still there. Did you wish to make any more comments?
Sure. Like you, the whole streetscape character analysis, it's complicated. It really is complicated. But ultimately, the first place I start with are the numbers. What are the numbers? And in this case, the numbers are 19-1. There's only one double garage within that, within the 21 lots. And that's where you have to start. So as I look at these street, front-facing garage issues and streetscape analysis issues, let's say it was, there were 7, but those 7 double garages were all clustered together. Then I would give some credence to that as kind of a, okay, the numbers are not, exact, but
there's a cluster there, so that will not truly impact the, you know, the streetscape. But, you know, again, there's only one double garage in this of the 21. So I went out and I looked at that property, and the difference between what is proposed here and that property is that in that case, the double garage is well set back from the street. It doesn't dominate the character of the building. In fact, there's enough room to park a car in front of that garage and still not be at the front of the living area itself. And again, this is it's a property that has you know, a distinctive front entrance, a distinctive porch around it. So automatically your eye is drawn to that front entrance. And that's basically what we're talking about here, that the garage not dominate the front of the property. And in the only other double garage within the 21 lots, the double garage does not dominate. It's well recessed, and it's the entrance that dominates. So in this case, if they had have, you know, even though the numbers are 19-1, if they had have made some effort to really make that entrance, you know, dominate the front of the building, then okay, maybe that's a consideration. But they didn't do that. The entrance is almost, it's recessed from the front of the garage. So you know, that's where, you know, I as a kind of a layperson are coming from, where I, you know, kind of factor all these things together. The other thing that was kind of brought up today is this the fact that is a driveway that is, you know, side by side on a semi-detached unit. Well, again, I have to, when I see those in my area where there's a front-facing garage, I have to consider, well, the value of that is that we're adding density to the neighborhood, and that's something that the official plan is asking for. In this case, we're not adding density. We're just getting taking down a single-family home and getting a single-family home. So in these cases where, you know, there's you know, front-facing garages, well, that's a factor that I mean, I consider in you know, do I agree or not agree? So just one more thing, if I can, this thing about well, it's going to be a front door, it's going to be a garage door, but it's not going to look like a garage door. The only worry I have about that is now, you know, are we going to start to see front-facing garages where they're not applicable, and the person saying, well, it's going to be a front-facing garage, but it's not going to look like a front-facing garage. It's fair. That's a fair thing. It's going to be a garage, but we're going to try and hide it. Well, there are other ways to make that front-facing garage less dominant, and that's what I look for in these things. Sorry, I went over.
Thank you very much. Can I just so I mean, either you or the applicants, if you know the answer. So on page 4, where you have the plan of which houses have front-facing double wide, unfortunately, the copy we have is, you know, shaded gray, so it's hard to tell.
Yes.
Can we maybe pull it on the screen and see which one?
Yes.
Which, in your view, is you're saying it's the only one with a double garage or double driveway?
So it's number 125. So if you flip to, I believe it's page 11 of the planning rationale, I'm not sure if it's up on the screen.
Top right.
Yeah, top right, that's the dwelling.
Okay. Yeah. Do they have vegetation invading their garage, their driveway there? Yeah. Sorry, 125, you said?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not, okay. Yeah, well. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there any question? Yes, Ms. Blather?
To the applicant, I'm looking at your site plan. And I notice that you're trying to mitigate the impact of two cars parallel in the driveway by having the last 3 or 4 meters of the driveway being single width. What measures are going to be taken to ensure that that driveway never gets widened to a double width? I mean, you've got plantings in there. Plantings can be easily removed. Are there any kind of vertical measures going to be put in place to prevent parking there? To keep that as a single driveway to the street?
Aside from the planters, nothing has been discussed as of yet, but yeah.
If it's material to the.
There's no desire to, sorry, there's no desire to have a 2-car garage at the street. The desire is to have access to a 2-car driveway, a double width driveway at the street. The desire is to have access to the garage door. So that's why we've only gone double wide once to get close to the garage door so you can actually turn in. So the client has no desire to have a double wide driveway at the street.
The client may not have a desire at this point. However, I can drive through my neighborhood. I can show you about 10 to 15 homes where single car driveways are now double width driveways and completely illegal. So again, are there vertical measures going to be put in place to prevent this from happening? Period. That's a simple question. I just need a simple answer.
There's none shown on the plan.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else online who has any questions or comments? Nope, we're not seeing any. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? I mean, I must admit, I was, following up on Mr. Blatherwick's and I, take what your client is telling you at face value, but 2 years down the road, the client sells for whatever reason and the new owner has a different vision.
That would be certainly not
beyond the realm of possibility, right? Okay, so no, none of us then. Would you like just sort of kind of sum up in for a couple of minutes?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Chair, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know it's been a long day. So there have been some discussions about the intent of the official plan. And certainly the intent of the official plan is to encourage a shift to different modes and to remove parking minimums close to transit. There's not very much direct policy direction on how ground-oriented dwellings should address parking. And as noted, the streetscape character analysis in the zoning does permit garage and driveway single wide. So although the variances before you today will significantly increase the utility of the garage and the convenience for the owners, they're not substantially changing that essential function. The streetscape character analysis, again, the intent of that is to ensure that over time, streets evolve, I think, towards an environment that is less dominated by cars, and certainly to act as a check to ensure that they don't evolve to a form that is more dominated by cars. And so that is a very important tool. But the tool or the mechanism that the Committee of Adjustment provides is to consider sites on an individual basis. I apologize, I forget the member of the public's name, but he made the comment that that there's not very many other double wide. Mr. Gray, I apologize, Mr. Gray, that there aren't very many other double wide garages. And to that, I would have to say that means that any future application for a wider garage would have to come before the committee and be decided sort of on the merits of that application. In this case, I think the design in the plans presents an improvement over the permit drawing, particularly with respect to landscaping, with respect to permeable paving. And also with the materiality and design chosen for the garage door itself, and will, relative to what is permitted as of right, relatively reduce the impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to prolong things, but so the issue of the visibility, privacy of the principal entrance was
Mhm.
raised by both Ms. Pearl and Mr. Gray, I think. Why is that not further forward? It would seem to have been given that there is a projection of some sort of the living space out there. Why was that not brought forward and a porch or a veranda or, a cantilevered cover provided?
We found often with our homes, our clients are not looking to project the entrance onto this, project the interactions that happen at our front door to the street. And they often don't, that's not something they're looking for. They're looking for something that's more nestled and more comfortable. So that's in all of our houses that we find that's the way that things are good designed at the front door.
Isn't that counter to provisions in the official plan that call for presence on the street and engaging with the streetscape? I mean, it seems directly counter to what the language in the OP has about entrances being located in the front facade and
we have it in the middle of the home at the front facade and it's not. Yeah, it is in the middle at the front facade and has a bright orange door. So in one sense, you could say it's quite visible.
It's not our role to debate, but you could say it's in the carport, which is a very 1950s sort of design where you drive to your house and nobody actually ever walks there, but thank you.
Nothing else? Do we wish to reserve on this one or would you wish to decide? I'm inclined to reserve personally, but I think, okay. We will reserve and you'll get the decision within the 10 days. If I could just prevail on city staff, oh, sorry, not city staff, planning committee staff. We have gone through everything in the shuffling around. I think we have addressed everyone, have we?
Yes,
not?
Mr. Chair.
So we
That's
are
the
now,
agenda.
I will take a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. Do we wish to stay here or do we wish to go back to the, might as well, if that's